Shalom, friends. What does God do all day? We know God is booked and busy, but what does the actual schedule look like? What's on the agenda? Let's get some theories. Welcome to Daf Reactions, Avodah Zarah 3. So there I was thinking that God has just been multitasking since creation, literally doing everything everywhere all at once, and not even feeling overwhelmed by that, which I imagine is one of the key time management benefits of being divine. But Rav Yehuda says that God actually has a very specific, organized breakdown of God's day. And it goes thusly. There are 12 hours in God's business day. During the first 3 hours of God's day, God studies Torah. And I was thinking, well, that sounds a little redundant considering that God wrote the Torah and already knows what happens, but I digress. Maybe this is just setting a great example for the rest of us. Or maybe it's when God does chivur to learning with Ashmadai. I would like to sign up for that. Can I sign up for that? And during the next 3 hours, God sits upon the throne of judgment, upon which God judges people. It is aptly named. And if God feels annoyed during this time, like maybe God wants to destroy the world or anything, just a smidge, God takes a little break, a little breather. Maybe does a little journaling. And then God goes and sits upon the throne of mercy, which I imagine is more comfortable, and thus God does not actually blip the world out of existence. Next, God checks in with all of the animals across the globe, from the wild oxen all the way down to tiny, tiny lice eggs. And I, for one, am not really sure why we need that part. Like, really, what do lice bring to the table? I know there's going to be somebody in the comment section who's going to tell me in great detail the benefits of lice in the ecosystem. And if you're the person who ends up typing that paragraph, I guess thank you. It's a learning opportunity for me. Okay, so after this long day at the office, God then needs to, decompress a bit. Celebrities are just like us. And now is God's scheduled time to play with God's pet, the Leviathan, who we might know as an enormous sea monster. But to God, that's just God's terrifying ocean puppy of the sea. However, at this point, Rav Acha tells Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak something very interesting, and that is that after the temple was destroyed, God doesn't play anymore. There is no more fun and games. And I think for anybody who has suffered great pain and great loss and great misery and gone through depression is really relatable. Will we ever play again? Will we ever feel lighthearted enough to laugh again? But while I do think this is a very interesting and powerful way to imagine the experience of grief, and that it is in fact shared by God and not ignored by an unfeeling deity, it also makes me sad because of the Leviathan, okay? It does. If God is not doing it, who exactly is playing Orca Fetch with Leviathan right now? I hope Elijah the prophet was able to set up a very, very large inflatable pool at the doggy daycare that you and I both know that he runs. So if God no longer is using that time to play with Leviathan, what is God doing instead? Apparently that's when God is teaching school children Torah. Like, no offense, but this is giving those annoying couples who get a dog, they get a Labradoodle, to prepare themselves for the role of being parents. But then when they pop out that human baby, they don't actually pay enough attention to their dog anymore, who was really their firstborn child. Like, did Lady and the Tramp teach you nothing? So that's basically God's daytime schedule. But what about the evenings? Does God doom scroll like the rest of us, but instead of on a phone, it's on a Megillah? The Gemara provides several theories, but I do have a favorite. This is what it is. God hops in God's chariot and takes a spin through 18,000 other worlds while listening to an angelic road trip mixtape with a few XG songs thrown in for good measure and really great intergalactic vibes. I'd like to think that at least occasionally, Leviathan gets to ride shotgun and stick his head out the window. And just a reminder, if you intend to get a Leviathan of your very own, adopt. Don't shop. How much do you hate this?